Crazy stories. My brother and I went out on our kayaks in the Bay Area of the Gulf of Mexico. It was around 3 in the afternoon. We were hunting down red drum to catch and knew a spot about 5 miles out. When we got there we started catching the fish like crazy. We sat on a sandbar and caught one after the other. We stayed out till 2 in the morning. I remember a full moon helped us see at night. We paddled back to the truck, took a long time, but being out in the bay at 2 a.m. is kinda freaky but really cool. A lot more to the story but too much to type. Public jizz. Okay, so I was working cashier today, and I noticed this one girl who wore leggings walk into the store. I didn't really pay much attention to her. Anyways, there was a huge line at my register and I noticed the girl from before. Usually when people leave the store, if they paid or not, I tell them to have a good day. As I turned around to tell her this, I noticed a white, dried jizz stain on her right ass cheek. I'm not too sure if it happened in the store or not, but I couldn't tell her about the stain as she was through the second set of motion-activated doors and I had at least 5 people in my line. I feel really bad to not telling her, but I have no clue what to do in that situation. My journey to manhood. So this might be a sissy story to some people but it's great to me. About a year ago I was an annoying, obedient 12-year-old and I was never really rebellious. All that changed one night at my friend's house. I played GTA 5 for the first time and had my first energy drink and I stood up to my friends, best friends ever, and I mean it. Thank you Rogan, Aiden, Liam. Love you guys. This girl's BF wouldn't leave me alone, so I have this friend in my chemistry class and she's your average girl. She does cheerleading and has a boyfriend that plays football. She is pretty attractive but not my type, but I still flirted with her from time to time. One night I really needed help on chemistry, so I asked her and her boyfriend replied with no and a pic of his face. He seemed pretty angry. I didn't think anything of it so I ignored it, but she then replied a little bit later that he had her phone. I just said it's okay, I should even be texting you have a boyfriend. A few days pass and then it's the weekend. She goes live on Instagram, so I joined BC. I was bored and she said hi and then my name. Then her BF looked at the camera with a really angered look. The next day I am on the bus on my way home and he adds me on Snapchat, so he's telling me that he's going to beat me up and all this BS. It got pretty annoying, so I just left him on read and then block him. I am a pretty big dude, but I was not going to fight a football player, but I really wish I did. BC, this dude is like 5 feet 8 inches and it was funny to me that he wanted to beat my ass, but I don't fight for no reason. Anyways, the girl I was friends with had to block me and couldn't talk to me, which sucked but wasn't a big deal. The girl and the guy seem happy but the dude seems controlling. Ouija boards are real. No doubt. When I was about 9 or 10 my older brother and my cousins were playing in the basement at my grandmother's. They didn't let me play with them because of course the age gaps between me and them, so I just sat on the steps with my WWE toys and would kinda peek to see what they were doing from time to time when I heard laughing or anything. So that's when they all come from around the corner and say, "Go upstairs." I ran upstairs as soon as they said it, because usually with my cousins and brother if they said something twice the second time usually came with a frog to the arm or a mean ear twist. My grandma had a table right in the middle of the basement she used to fold clothes. Me being bored and bad, I went halfway back down just enough to be able to see them but not be seen. At the time I didn't know what they were doing. All I could hear was them saying to each other, "Stop moving it," and, "I'm not, that's you." I peeked around and see them around the table, hands stretched out, but I can't see what they're touching. I move back some so I wouldn't get caught and beat, so I can only see my cousin Xavier's face. His eyes look big as shit. It wasn't like he was scared, but he was amazed. So I think whatever, I wanna see what's so cool, and I remember just as I was stepping down I heard my brother say, "Look." My cousin Xavier spun around and at that exact moment I turned from looking at him looking to the left and see my grandma's shutters closing on its own. I'm paralyzed with fear at this moment because this isn't my first run-in with some spooky shit. But that's another story. My cousins and brother come zooming up the stairs past me. I'm watching this shit for it seemed like a year, then I realized I have to run too before I was the last one up the stairs, and whatever was down there got me. My cousins and brother ran in the living room and told Granny. She proceeded to curse all of us out and then called my uncle to go get that, in her own words, devil shit, out of her house. I remember my uncle saying he was gonna bury it. Haven't thought about it in years. Those things work. 100% sure. Behind the bark. One time in high school I saw a tree while sitting with my friends and for some reason decided to walk up to it, pulled off a piece of bark from the tree and there was a quarter there behind the bark. I have no idea why someone put it there or why I had thought to pull that exact piece of bark. My friends were questioning life the rest of the day. So I'ma keep this short, but I pet a bobcat. My neighbor brings in strays all the time and her house literally has cats crawling everywhere. She brought in a young bobcat, they're common in the area, to what I am supposing by accident. He was jumping up at me and just kinda gripped on me. So, I pet him. He didn't seem to mind, though. I just talked to my neighbor while petting a bobcat for a couple minutes. The neighbor just kinda lifted him to get his claws unstuck from clinging to my clothes. She had to also scoot a kitten before I could walk back outside. I saw a mermaid when I was little and no one believes me. It was when I was 6 or 7 and my family took a week trip to Catalina Island, just off the coast of Los Angeles. When we were walking down the pier, or the dock, I was looking over the edge down at the deep clear water when I saw a woman with really long blonde hair with a fishtail swim past quickly and disappear under the pier. That's when I immediately ran to my mom and said I saw a mermaid. Like I literally saw one, and I kept telling my whole family the entire trip that I really did. The only one that believed me ATM was 5Y, oh brother, but of course he would, he was little lol. Anyways, I only saw the back of the woman swimming, never a face or front of the body, and it was at the end of the pier where no one could swim out to since it's so deep and the water gets crazy. But I do truly believe I saw one, and I did some research about Catalina Island and they have nothing on mermaid events where people dress as mermaids for entertainment. Otherwise I would have just thought it was a fake one. I don't know if I saw what I believe I saw, which is a freaking mermaid. Or if I just imagined I did, but the image in my head is still so clear that it couldn't have just been an illusion. The Great Depression and kids. This story had been passed down through generations of my family on my mom's side, and she recently told me. Apparently my great-grandfather was friends with a family in the Sandhills of Nebraska who had a family of 6. 2 parents and 4 children. This was during the Great Depression. Many families suffered from not having much for money and the fact many of them didn't use any sort of birth control method. People had lots of children. I guess one day my great-grandfather noticed something strange going on at this neighbor's house. The family's baby was nowhere to be found and they kept saying, "The babe's just sick," or, "We took her to her aunt's." One day my grandfather found out what had actually happened. The family killed and cooked their baby for food because they were so poor they couldn't afford anything. The family never had any more children after that. Sister skinned, decapitated, dismembered plus more in front of her children by husband. Ask anything. After family portraits with her corpse and attempt to nurse my newborn niece off her corpse. Justin Ray dismembered and mutilated her body, skeleton and organs, along with decapitating her in front of my 2-year-old niece. He then crossed state lines to dump her remains in a Kansas storage unit where he stayed with the kids overnight before attempting to flee on a train for 6 days to burn what was left of my sister's remains. There is no justice. Ask me anything. In an attempt for justice for Jessica, please sign my petition linked below. He then crossed state lines to dump her remains in a Kansas storage unit where he stayed with the kids overnight before attempting to flee on a train for 6 days to burn what was left of my sister's remains. There is no justice. Ask me anything. In an attempt for justice for Jessica, please sign my petition linked below. When it came to the Q and a part, one of the pupils, a boy of about 15, said, "How many times did you die when you were fighting?" The vet just looked bemused at him, not knowing what to say. He didn't realize the boy was thinking that real war was like a video game, where you respawn after being killed. My aunt walked in on me masturbating. Deleted the last one cause forgot to add NSFW. Sorry mods. My aunt, who is very undermining of me and humiliates me a lot, walked in on me masturbating to porn of my biggest kink, humiliation. She watched me stumble and attempt to hide my rather unimpressive parts for a solid 10 seconds before leaving the room. Guys help. It's just me and her RN cause my bro left for collage not too long ago. I'm starting high school soon and I'm afraid she'll say something if she ever drops me off. I can feel her thinking up ways of humiliating me. Help guys, IDK what to do. Is the Bible fiction? According to one atheist madlad in my class, yes. We have a very religious teacher in my class, who used to really bother this one atheist kid in our class. When summer vacation came around, we had summer reading work, where we needed to write about a fiction book. Mr. Madlad read the Bible, and did his summer work on it. He came on the first day of school, and the teacher asked him why he did it, and for him to explain himself. And he just told her, "Can you prove that all of it actually happened?" I wish I could say this story had a happy ending, and everyone clapped. But he got in a lot of trouble, and ended up switching schools. The arcade, so one night me and my dad wanted to go to arcade together, so we tried to take a Uber there. The Uber driver said the arcade we were going to was in a bad area of town, but we just wanted to see if it was okay to go to. So he made sure we got in safely, but there were 2 police officers at the door. They patted me and my dad down just to get into the arcade. Then we get inside and we hear people yelling. We notice that a security guard wasn't letting a customer into bowling area even though she had paid for it. Then the customer talks to the cashier about it and the cashier decided to yell at the security guard about it. We didn't feel safe there, so we called another Uber, which was a female in her 20s or 30s, and she was sketchy about picking us up. She was worried because it was an unsafe area of town as mentioned earlier. Then she noticed that I was there, so let us in. She basically rescued us from the poor area we were in. Then took us to an arcade she recommended and we had a blast there. My mother was the first person to know where George Bush was heading during 9/11. My mother worked for the Omaha World Herald and was working the morning of the attack. A government friend of hers leaked to her that Bush was headed for Omaha to stay safe during the attacks. She ran to her editor and told him the news. The editor told her that there is no way it is true because there isn't a reason for him to come here. Turns out the Air Force base here is where he would go in case of a national attack, and it was secret. So my mother was the first person to know that the Bush was headed to Omaha on 9/11 outside of government officials. And nobody believed her.